So the first game that we want to talk about is a new release from Mind Clash Games.
Mind Clash Play.
Mind Clash Play, which is the more accessible new kind of umbrella brand that they're using for games that are simpler, more like filler style games. Because if you know Mind Clash games, they are very well known for these big experiences. So, all of the Cerebria and the Trickerion and Perseverance are these games that take a lot to get into. And now they've seen, I guess, an opportunity to create these more accessible games. And the first game, or the first title, is Astra. And Astra, we were very lucky to be sent an early release copy of Astra. And so we can talk about what it's like, because before we went away, we did get an opportunity to play a lot of Astra. And this is the polar opposite of a Mind Clash game, or what you know as a Mind Clash game, because this game is super simple. It's a roll and write game, and it's based on all of the different constellations. And so you have this big deck of tarot-sized cards, and on each of these cards you have a constellation of stars, and these constellations have different types of stars on them. But there is one star where you have to start from. And what you're going to be doing as a group is drawing on these tarot-sized cards to try and fill out these constellations until they're complete. And the way the game works is that you're going to be drawing from this deck of cards and creating this circle or wheel of different constellations that are placed out around this board in the center. And you're going to have Stardust, and Stardust is represented by these gem tokens that you have. And on your turn, you're able to spend these gem tokens according to the number of stars that you want to mark off on a constellation of your choice. So you can choose any of the constellations that are around the wheel and in the center of the board, and then you'll mark these off. And everybody's going to be contributing to these same constellations, and when one is complete, the person who completes the constellation gets to draft that card into their player area. And you would do that for two reasons. The first reason is because at the end of the game, you're going to score points according to the different types or suits of constellations that you've collected. So they're going to give you victory points at the end of the game. The other reason is because they each have a unique ability, and these unique abilities can be tapped. So at any time that you choose, you would tap the card and use its ability, and that's going to help you progress in this game. And what you're trying to do is you have a player board that is going to unlock different things. The first thing is, in order to collect more of those cards, you need to unlock the ability to have more of those cards. So, you think you start with 3, and then you can get to 4 and 5 and 6. And so that's going to, I guess, hinder your progress or your ability to recruit new cards. The other thing is you want to increase your bag size so that you can have more of the Stardust, so that you can, of course, do more drawing at once. But what's interesting is that it's not always the case that you want to complete the constellation. So everybody's going to be contributing, and when one person completes a constellation, yes, they get to draft that card, and only they can use its unique ability and score it at the end of the game. However, everybody who's contributed to drawing that constellation is going to get a boon, and the boon in this game is a one-off kind of powerful bonus that you can get, and the person who has contributed the most to that constellation without winning it or without completing it gets first choice of those boons. And then the person who next contributed the most gets the next choice.
Based on contribution,
And those things are going to be to collect more Stardust, which is really important, because the only other way you can refill your bag of Stardust is to rest on your turn. And when you rest, you don't get the opportunity to draw on any other constellation. So a boon might be useful so that you don't have to essentially have a pass turn. When you also rest, you get the opportunity to untap the cards that you've collected, but only with the current round suit. So that's quite interesting dynamic as well, because you might time when you rest so that you can untap more
There's
of
a little
those
disc
cards.
that marks what the current or the active suit is,
Yeah.
and it sort of moves around every time someone around the table rests. So that's another kind of timing element when you're like, oh, I really want to refresh these ones, but this like it's still 2 away if this person rests, or like
Yeah, so the tension in the game is really interesting because, and it's not like a palpable tension, but the decision space is really, do I want to complete a card and take it for the end game scoring and for its ability, or do I want to contribute to as many constellations as I can, even if it's just 1 star, so that I can get these really powerful one-off bonuses. So you're kind of trying to decide what to do.
Some of the bonuses are actually points. So you might see cards where it's like, 4 points is one of the bonuses. You're like, oh, that's actually pretty good to just contribute to.
Yeah, which might be better.
Win.
And there's a transition point in the game, I think, where you stop taking the bonuses that are like unlocking more space in your bag or unlocking more cards in favor of taking the victory points, because the writing's on the wall, the game's coming to an end, and the game actually comes to an end when we reach a particular card that's in the deck, which is predetermined by the number of players. This game it's really, really simple. So I would say, don't be confused by the Mind Clash branding. This is definitely a different side of Mind Clash. This is
something that you can play with like non-gamers, with family, with, I could see like, we didn't actually bring it, but I can see like us playing it with, with the family who only play like, barbecue and stuff. And it's a lot more relaxed, and it's more about like the markers are actually really good. So they have the dry erase markers, and you're drawing on the tarot cards, and with the erasers, it actually, from a production size, that's pretty. Point.
And the artwork, you weren't as fond of the artwork?
I'm not as taken with it, because I really like kind of colorful, bright colors, and this is a lot more subdued. Obviously,
I love it.
It's all about stargazing, so it's
I really love the card artwork, and they actually said, some of the constellations we had to change just a little bit,
liberties, so that
to balance out the game. But I love the fact that there are so many of those cards in the deck. The artwork is all stunning and based on real constellations, and it always is like a nice surprise when you turn one over, it's like, ooh, that's
and then
really
also
cool.
like the star signs, like if I see a Taurus one, I'm like, Taurus, I cannot not get that card.
So if you're into stargazing or star signs or anything like that, or astrophotography, then you'll definitely enjoy, I think, the theme of this game. I think that if you're a heavy gamer, this might be a tad light. It's probably a little bit too light for our personal tastes, and the type of groups that we tend to play with. But I could definitely see how it would be a nice like icebreaker before you get into games, or if you've got a group of non-gamers, certainly, or if you just love the theme.
Kind of bring the night to a close. It's like, what a lovely way to like bring a night to a close, and like do a little bit of stargazing on the on the table.
If you like those games where you're just having a cup of tea and it's very, very breezy, but kind of some interesting decisions along the way. I'm looking forward to seeing what else they do in this category of games. But if this is the first one, it's definitely a good sign, star sign of things to come.
Well done. I like what you did there. The scaling is with the central wheels, they've got different sides based on the number of players. The 2-player variant, there is not really an AI, but they've kind of added an extra phase to when you do a rest, which is you get an extra color marker, and it sort of prompts you, depending on the rest. On the rest side, it'll have different numbers. So like I believe from 1 to 4. And so that's the number of stars that will be drawn with that extra one.
Basically, you're playing as another competitor in the game, and you're both using a neutral color to fill in some of the constellations.
And all that happens is if that card is, if it's completed by that extra player, by the neutral player, then it just sort of disappears. But if you've contributed towards it, then again you can still activate those boons. And if the neutral player has done the majority of the stars in it, then you just cross out the first 2 boons, and then you have access to the rest. So it's
as always, I prefer not to have any kind of AI or neutral player. So
but it's
I do
fairly low.
It is, but I prefer at the higher player count, because then you've got that more dynamic between all the players who contributed the most. It adds a little bit more tension to the game, which I really like. So that is Astra.